Hello guys, this is leathertoolz. Today I'm going to explain about how to sharpen leather punches. If you haven't seen my other videos, I will put the link here. You can click here how I sharpened all of these punches to scary sharp. These are not the high quality punches when you buy it first time. So they are really cheap, under $10 punch. You can get them anywhere in any hardware store. You can get them on Amazon. These are flea market finds and also the hardware store bought punch, and they are decent still, and but they don't come in scary sharp from the factory because of the cost reason. From the factory, if they need to sharpen it like this, very fine sharpening, it will cost a lot of time and tooling, so they don't necessarily do that. They just make it barely enough to punch through material, so that so it's usable at least. But for fine leatherworking and for easy to use, you need proper sharpening. So like I showed you in the video, you can do the sharpening, and for smaller punches like these two, the one that I showed in the video was this type of big punch. This is 8mm hole punch, but the rod thickness, it's about 12mm or 13mm. It's quite thick, so this doesn't fit to drill bits like this. So this does not fit here, so I cannot do it with a drill. But with these two, you can do with a drill. So what you can do is you can just chuck it up, and then you rotate it, and also small ones as well. Like this. It doesn't necessarily have to spin at very high speed, but it does help if it spins high speed. But it's depending, it's your skill set and what you prefer as well. So speed doesn't really matter, but it's just the torque it matters. Okay. So in the video I didn't say anything because I don't know. I just felt like I just wanted to show the full sharpening process without talking too much. So basically what I did was I made these strips of sandpaper with a backed sandpaper. So I went through from 100 grits to, I started from 100 grits to 240 and 220 and 500 and 800 also, and 1200 and also 3000, and then I finished with the strop. Okay, so I didn't go from the roughest grind to the finest I could find. So each step is very important to get the highest sharpness, but you don't necessarily need to go every sandpaper steps that's available on the market. So what I mean is that you can skip few sandpapers if you want. I just did it because I had a sandpaper already. But if you don't have it, you can start it with 120 grits and then skip to 300 and then 500 and then 1000 and then 2000. Yeah, you could stop like that. You know, you can skip it because I'm not saying it because of the feeling or anything. It's just the science behind it is quite interesting. So these type of sandpapers, whether you buy high quality or not, the sandpapers wears out quite quickly. So what sandpaper does is it's actually just a special paper that resists water. It's a better than normal paper. It's just a coated paper, and they electroplate these grits onto this paper. It could be resin bonded or electroplated, it doesn't matter, but it's a very thin layer of abrasive. Okay, and then when you use it against this type of hard material or even wood, as the harder as the material gets, this effect becomes severe, that your rough grits quickly becomes into very finer grits. So 300 grits sandpaper becomes 500-ish after certain use of time. And when it's such a high spinning object like the application for sharpening punches like this, the changing of a grit happens really quickly. So you started out with a 350 grits, but when you sharpen, keep using the same paper, it turns into 500 grit paper, and your 500 grit paper turns quickly into 800 grit paper, and your 1000 becomes 1000 to 1500 grits. And as the finer sandpaper is, it wears down much quicker. So your 2000 grit sandpaper or 3000 grit sandpaper doesn't last a few seconds. So you might need to change it more often than rough grit sandpaper. That's the key. And for other tips, yes, like I said, this is the normal sandpaper that you normally buy from your hardware store, but this tear out very quickly if you use it in such a hard application like the sharpening punches, where you pull and you give much stress. Whereas this cloth backing sandpaper, the brand doesn't matter, it has more mesh type, very thick type of fabric. This stays much longer than this paper backing. So what I did was I glued duct tape. This is Tessa brand. This is available in Europe, in Germany especially, but you can buy in Amazon. It's just Google duct tape. Whether you're in Singapore, Canada, you can also find it. You don't necessarily don't have to go for duct tape brand duct tape. There are also other brands. 3M also makes them. Gorilla Tape also makes them. So try to find any type of this type of cloth backed very tough tape, and then place it on your sandpaper and cut them in size. Yeah, this is about 5 centimeter wide, so that it's quite nice. And you can get this 5 or 4 strips per each sandpaper, so it's very economical as well. So you sharpen it and then you just throw it away. So make sure to utilize all this area as you use it. And yeah, you could do this very thin for sharpening this type of small punches, but I don't know, it just felt right to use it on a very large punch, just because if it's wider, you can cover most of the area very easily like this. But whereas if you save up more and try to use this type of sandpaper, you're sharpening to local. If it's sharpening localizing, it doesn't give this smooth transition from this area to here. I needed to have very good transition, just for aesthetics and also the functionality of it. As the punch, if your punch is smooth, that means your material doesn't stick to your punch. So it's sharp. First of all, it's good, but also when you pull it out your leather, it's much easier. Okay, this is smallest punch I have. This is 1mm punch, and it has a very small, very small hole. And I have to tell you that I only sharpened the outside of the punch. I couldn't get into the inside punch, because no matter how I tightly roll my sandpaper, it doesn't go inside with a proper size rod or anything. The only thing is I just do the points. So I only sharpen the outside of the punch, and it's sharp. It's not that sharp as the other punches, but it does its work. So keep in mind that if your punch is too small, you might having hard trouble to get in there to clean up the inside. Okay, this punch, this one is 4mm. It's a quite different construction punch, but this is also sharpened as well. Okay, I like the shape of this punch quite a lot. It looks quite traditional looking, whereas this one is just a ordinary punch. It's a different method of construction. This doesn't tell you anything about the quality. It's just two different methods, how you drill the hole and then how you manage to make a path to allow the object that resects into this hole, and this one as well. But this one looks just classic. Yeah, this one was large enough so that I can get inside the hole. I clean the hole inside and it's really sharp. It's very sharp. I can just tap with a small hammer and then I get the hole. So I don't necessarily need to bang against the working table to get the hole size correctly, to get the hole. So it's really nice to have a punch. Yeah. So oh yeah, and like if I'm not sure if I already explained, on the last step you need to strop, or you need to go to really fine polish your punch. So I'm not sure if you have already noticed, I used a black compound and green compound at the end of the sharpening video. So please keep in mind that after sanding your sandpaper, sharpening with the sandpaper, use your strop. And also one important step is please use water. You can use oil if you want, but oil is a bit messy. I try to avoid oil as much as I can. Use oil, dip your sandpaper into the oil time to time before you use, so that while your punches run on your sandpaper, it cools down. Okay. When anything that's doing your craft, when anything spins against another material, it creates a lot of heat and friction. Yeah? When that builds up, it's much more powerful than you think. Okay, so try to be careful not to ruin the temper of the steel of your tool when you polish the material. So please cool off with water. Dip your sandpaper into the water bucket, or spray some water on your sandpaper before you do that, and then you're good to go. Yeah. And when you use hand drill, always be careful not to touch the entrance part of the punch, because this thing spins, and when it's thin and spins, it can cut flash like nothing. So please be careful when you do this job. When you are experienced, it's cool, but if you're doing the first time, please wear gloves. No, sorry, don't wear gloves. Anything that spins into the machinery, it can also cut up your hand into the machine. Sorry, that was wrong advice. Don't wear gloves actually, but just be careful not to get in the way of the sharp object. Yeah, I've always learned from the workshop that wearing gloves is not always safest when you're using machinery, because your finger will wind up into the machine because of your glove. Okay, so in this case it's quite tricky, but be careful when you're wearing gloves. It's sometimes it's too dangerous when you wear gloves. It's better not to wear gloves sometimes. Yeah. So I hope this cleared some of the question marks in your head about the sharpening videos. I know I should have done the voiceover in that sharpening video, but I just wanted to show the clear process steps, how I sharpen my the punches without talking too much. Alright, so thanks for watching guys, as always. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next video. Bye bye.